Hello everybody and welcome to part 2 of the TJ Universe episode. How are we doing?
We're still here, going strong,
Still
dancing
here,
through life.
putting in that work. So we finished up on the last episode obviously talking about the competition and stuff that's been taken out of sort of kids sports and all the rest of it like that. And you were saying about obviously that in all areas of life, well, we were both saying really that obviously in all areas of life, that's, that competition is there whether we like it or not, really.
Right.
And, as I always do, I can lead that on nicely to the next point. What was it like and how hard was it to begin your journey of starting your graphic novel?
Oh, on it. So I'm going to say it really wasn't hard at all. Now, I'm going to say that, but I'll let you interpret whether you believe me or not after you hear how it happened. Because I'm not a writer by trade. Well, maybe I am now. But it all started, we had binged watched all the shows that we could watch in 2020. And so I was getting ready to sit down and see what I was going to binge next. And I just kind of sat down on my couch, and I had read something earlier that day that said something like, a busy mind will keep you busy, but doesn't leave room for creativity. And I was like, okay, if I sit down and watch TV for 4 hours, I'm going to be occupied, but I'm not really doing anything. So I put the remote down and I was like, okay, if I can't find something to do in 30 minutes, then I'll find something to watch. And my husband was on the other side of the couch and was like, didn't you have kind of like an idea for a cartoon? And I was like, oh yeah, but it is just one idea. And he was like, well, here. So he runs to the closet in our room and grabs these storyboarding pages, is essentially what they are. They're pieces of computer paper that had 6 blocks in them that were blank. And he was like, here, just if you have a picture, a word, a line from your script, write it in here. And I was like, okay, let me see what I can do. 6 hours later, I had the premise of my show. And I've been going ever since. Although now it is not a show and it is a graphic novel instead.
Right. So what happened for that change to happen?
Yeah. So 80% of what I watch is animation. I love it. Don't know why, but I do. And so even now, when I think about the scene that's going to happen next, I don't see it in my head as it being on paper. I see it like it's a show. So I see the characters moving and doing whatever they need to do. And so I started talking as the show was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And when I realized that I actually had something, I started asking around, and I got on LinkedIn and was like, let me find my voice actors and my authors and find anybody who will listen to me. And I eventually found one very nice lady out of Atlanta, Georgia, and she gave me a lot of advice, really helped me out. And long story short, I could have continued with her to work on creating a show, but my goal was to tell this story that I had started writing originally. And so the best option that I could see at the time was to make it a graphic novel. That way the story stayed mine. I could put down whatever I wanted, and I could make sure that my story was out there. So that's kind of, it was a weird roundabout way, but I just decided, okay, this path I could go down, but it wasn't quite what I wanted, so I went the graphic novel route.
Yeah. You've got to do obviously what suits your style, and obviously with you wanting, I suppose, creative control of it as well. Obviously that, it stands to reason. Obviously, that would be the more sensible option. So, where we at with the sort of graphic novel? What is the sort of premise of the novel, and when can we expect it?
Oh, that is a great question. So my novel is called Finding Circus. It is about a star, as in a star in the sky, who has to go against everything he's ever known to help two asteroid friends. So in the process, he has to fight against his feelings, the classist hierarchy between stars and asteroids, and then there's an unknown evil that threatens all life. So our main character learns to master his light and save the galaxy. Woo! So that's kind of what the show's about. I keep calling it a show. This is a recent transition, if you can't tell. So within the last 4 months.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So where we're at currently is I have outlines for 4 different books, and I am currently scripting book 1 and storyboarding at the same time. So while I am not an artist and I still need an artist to help bring my vision to life, we're making steady headway. So I'm not quite sure when it will be ready, but hopefully soon.
Yeah, hopefully, 100%. And so going along the way of the journey with with the novel and whatnot, what sort of people have you bumped into, or have not anyone of note, but sort of anyone interesting that you've met that you've just that you thought, and it stuck with you?
Oh, do you mean? So, question: do you mean since I have started the novel, or just in general that might have affected?
Yeah, well, let's go through the stages of life, I suppose. Who was your sort of influence growing up?
Yeah, so to be honest, I really didn't have one for a very long time. When I was, again, when I was Jehovah's Witness, they are very inclusive. So essentially, somebody that you would look up to would be another Jehovah's Witness. So I didn't really have anybody that I felt was a model for me. Now, after that, I have gotten to meet so many incredible people. I did get to meet Kelly Clarkson once. That was pretty fun. And she is extremely nice.
Right. How did that come about?
So I was actually in a bar in full drag, like cocktail dress, 6-inch heels, hair this high off my head. And I had heard people talking. They were like, oh, like Kelly's here, Kelly's here, Kelly's here. And I'm looking around, like nowhere to be found. And I was just like, oh, they're sure, okay. I am standing off to the side watching the drag show, and I look over to this person who hits me about here, and I just go, oh, I know you. And it's Kelly Clarkson standing right beside me, and she was just like, oh, do you? And so we joked around for a few minutes. Out of my mouth, just before I could even stop myself, I was just like, you're so short. And she didn't even skip a beat. She just looked at me and goes, you're in 6-inch heels. And that was it. I was just like, you are amazing and I love you.
Oh, right. Well, did you find out what she was doing in there?
She was just there to see the show.
Oh, right. Nice.
Yeah, like that was pretty much our interaction. And I was, I didn't want to take up her time. And there was a show happening. So I was just like, enjoy the show. And I kind of stepped away and she just very casually was like, okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye. And went about her day, her evening.
Her evening, yeah. So we've jumped, obviously. So we're influencers. Who was?
Yeah.
So who was your first sort of influence then? Who did you first? Who were you first influenced by?
Ooh. There's so it's kind of interesting, especially when I first started drag. That was my first experience, what I call into the real world. So I was out of the Jehovah's Witness bubble, and I had so many drag queens and other performers helping me out at the time. So I had a large group of people really helping me out, giving me ideas. But I think the first person I saw that blew my mind, and I was like, I want to be this person. She is a drag queen out of Atlanta, Georgia. Her name is Tasia Thomas. And I saw her perform, and my jaw hit the ground. She did kicks and flips and splits all the while looking immaculate. And I just thought that's what I want to be. Them. And so that was kind of, I think, the first person that put the drive in me to just go. And yeah. If I saw her now, I would probably even still be a little starstruck and just be like, I love
you. Did you go to her for any sort of pointers or anything like that, or has it always just been sort of an admiration at a distance?
For her, it was more of an admiration, just like anything especially with social media now, like following her, seeing what she's doing. And then of course that was at the time before social media was even really big. I want to say we still had like Facebook at the time. But it was before the mass breakout of social media. So just getting tidbits here and there. So she's the one who lit the fire. And then I would definitely say, as far as like other inspirations, one of my other best friends, Aurora, who is another drag queen I worked with, was a big inspiration. She literally grabbed me and was just like, we're going to be friends and encourage one another. And that's literally what we do. So nice. Even good. When I started writing the show, I was like, hey, Aurora, here's what I'm doing. There was never a like, oh, you can't do that, or oh, that's not in your field. It was just like, okay, so this is what we're doing. How can I help? And it's like, you friend.
I think that's what you need as well. In most things, well, in all things, like I have the same with that. Like, it's my old man. He's like, anyone he speaks to, he will try to find out if they know anyone that can come on the podcast or if they can themselves.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, well, he messaged me today. He's like, I'm just in Manchester doing this installment. I've just been speaking to a woman that does MMA, so she might want to come on. I was like, all right, cool. Like, it just literally came out of nowhere, and I was like, oh, okay. I was like, how the hell did you, like, how have you met her? But yeah, he doesn't stop. Like, anyone he speaks to, like he speaks to like an old friend or whatever, and he'll be like, oh, do you remember old, Thingy? He said, my lad's got a podcast, like, we need to get him on it. And yeah, he's just always like, he doesn't stop. But I think as well, and I'm sure it's for you for the same, is the sort of naysayers and the people that are negative on it. That makes me want to achieve this more. Do you know
It's
what I
kind of
mean?
great to just be like, oh, you didn't think I could? Well, poof, here we go.
Yeah, because this for me is just about learning and broadening my horizons. Like I said, from where I am, like where I live, and the job I do and all the rest of it, it's just sort of just a normal existence that is. It's sort, I suppose, a bit grey. Really, it's just a normal, 9 to 5 job. I'm a lorry driver but in the day. So it's a normal-ish job, it's not normal-ish. It is a normal job. There's millions of us, around the world. So, and then like wanting to do this, just sort of came to me one day. I literally, because I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I was like, I should do podcasting. I like to talk. Everyone always tells me I like to talk, and I wanna learn more, because I just think people are too sort of in their own lane, and we don't do enough of this where we get to know people on a sort of deeper level. And I think if a lot more of this happened, there'd be a lot less issues in the world, because because people, like I say, stay in their lane. They only hear the noise that they want to hear, which means it's just an echo chamber. So you think what I think, so we must be right. Oh, and there's someone over there that also thinks what we think. Right, let's all stay together then. We'll continue to think that because that's the way we think. Whereas then there's another party that thinks complete opposite. Well, if you got them 3 people, 6 people together, they all had a bit of a chat and were like, oh, this is what we think this is. I think you'd start to sort of bridge them gaps, and you wouldn't have... I'm not saying it would clear everything up. Obviously, there's always going to be issues in the world. That's, I suppose, what makes the world spin. But I just think having the open discussion and whatnot is much better for everyone. And for me, like I said, it's all just about learning. Like, if no one listens to this, it doesn't matter for me, because I'm listening to it. I can hear you talking and telling me about, all the stuff that I would otherwise have no idea about, like drag queens and stuff. Like, I don't know anyone that's a drag queen. So
you do now.
Well, I do that. Do you know what I mean? And just talking to you about it and sort of your experiences with it is what this is all about for me, and it's all it will ever be about. So when I speak to people, like when I message them, they're like, oh, I'm a bit busy at the minute, but can we do it? Can we look in like a couple of months? Well, I'm like, well, this is going to be coming out like this. I'm going to be doing this for as long as I can, really. So I'm like, yeah. 3 months is fine, because I'm cooking now. I've got sort of 8 guests lined up at the minute, so.
That's so great. And, that kind of really goes along with one of my biggest thoughts, is that I never knew that I wanted to write. Like, that was never really a thought, but I knew what I loved. And one of the things I loved was animation. So, and I feel like for you, like you even said, people like said that you love to talk to people and you love to learn. So I try to encourage people all the time. If you don't know what you want to do, or you know that you want to do something different, but you don't know what it is, just go out and explore and find the things that you like to do. And then eventually something will present itself that says, I have all of these things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's great that you just kind of fell into it and you're doing what you love, because why would you not?
No, yeah, 100%. That's what I mean. Like the chats that I've had with people, it's just like, yeah, I would never have those chats in sort of my normal day-to-day life. I just wouldn't meet the sort of people that I'm meeting. So yeah, I'm very thankful for it, and I think I've learnt a hell of a lot, and I've grown as a person myself as well, because I've grown as a person because I now look at people with more of an understanding, or not an understanding of what they've been through, because I don't know what they've been through, but I don't take people for granted, and I don't make an assumption or a judgment on someone at first glance, whereas I was probably very judgmental growing up and stuff. And like looking back, I was quite privileged actually, but at the time I didn't, I'm just a kid, you know what I mean? I'm playing with my mates and all the rest of it, and we'd make jokes that about the kid at school who's got the the crap crisps, or I suppose you call chips. You know, like stuff like that. And then I look back and I think, oh, we always had like the, you know, walkers, or I think, you do have lays? Are they what walkers are? Or do you have walkers?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like
We
then,
do.
like yeah, and it's like, and I've always, I mean, I've always been like, you know, you can achieve whatever you want, and I will always believe that. You know, I think that is a staple, and I think everyone should aim for that. But yeah, I led quite a privileged life, and speaking to some of the people I've spoke to, it's sort of hammered that home that, you know, I'm so fortunate that I was. And then just looking back on that and just sort of, you know, I took it for granted, and yeah, and it's it made me the man I am. Do you know what I mean? It's how I've been moulded by my youth and how I was brought up and whatnot, and who I've, you know, sort of my family and my surroundings. But yeah, I love it. I can't thank like podcasting enough. I really can't. I love it.
That's so fantastic. And I love that you talk about making judgment calls about people, because that's one thing that I've really noticed a lot lately. My day job is as a massage therapist. And so I hear a lot of people talk. And one of the things that I find that I think is one of the weirdest things that we do is that we make assumptions about people. Just like, oh, well, you know, they're this way, they're that way. But also being a massage therapist, talking to people, you realize that people are not what you think at first. So many of the time, everybody's got a story, everybody's got something. So I think completely, if we could eliminate making the assumptions about people and just start talking to them and seeing that, yeah, it would change so much. So
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
You've mentioned there that you're a massage therapist. What's the sort of craziest thing that someone's ever spoke to you about whilst you've been doing that?
Oh my goodness. I have heard a lot of things, and obviously I can't, for confidentiality reasons, can't really describe some of the things that I've heard. But I will give you a scenario that cracked me up, and it is one of my favorite things that ever happens. Is I have a couple, a husband and wife of, I want to say like, we're going to say 1 billion years. And so I'll get, you know, a husband in, and he's like, oh, I'm going to tell you a secret, but you can't tell the wife. And I'm like, well, I literally can't. So spill the beans. Tell me. And he'll be, you know, they'll be like, I got a new desk chair, or, oh, I got a new bicycle, you know, nothing crazy. And I'll be like, oh, okay, you know, I won't say anything. And then I'll get said wife in, and she'll be like, I have a secret to tell you, but you can't tell my husband. And it's just a funny thing of hearing like those little funny secrets that they think they're hiding from each other and they're not. Or like just hearing both sides of the story. It can be so funny to be just a third party perspective just there to listen.
Yeah, and I bet when you hear both sides of the story, you're like, the truth's probably down the middle.
Mm-hmm. Most of the time, you kind of could see how it could just filter down.
Yeah. But it's the same, like I see it all the time on Instagram and stuff, and like I'm single at the minute. Well, I am single. Like there's I haven't got anyone at all. And
hear that, everyone?
No, but not for that at all. But there's certain things that I'll see on Instagram that obviously I used to get moaned at for when people are taking the mick out of it, and I'm like, oh, that's a man thing to do then. But when you're in a relationship, it's a man thing to do. It's just that's what you do, and it annoys. You know, it's always my other halves that I've had, like, you know, going back. They'll have all had, you know, their gripes with something that I've done. But now I see it on TikTok or Instagram, and I'm like, but that's what I used to do. So is that a man thing then? it must be. And then they'll do something else. I'm like I saw one the other day, and it was when you put pasta on to boil, a man doing it. Obviously, you put the pasta in, and I stand there and watch it until it cooks. And then the woman one is she put the pasta on, then she started doing the hoovering, she folded the ironing, and I'm like, oh, that is exactly how we are. And I did laugh quite hard at that, because I was like, I used to get grief for that all the time. And I just think, well, that's happening all over the world. That's not just me.
Right. Now you have proof.
Yeah, it's gone viral, so both sides obviously agree.
Oh, I always love that too, because especially being, in a relationship with two males, it's funny when I talk to people and I realize, because my husband and I are completely opposite, like 100%. It still blows my mind that we like each other sometimes, because I'm just like, how? But that is definitely one of those things. Like, he would be the person to boil the pasta and then be like, okay, now I've got to chop some onions. I'm going to go vacuum the carpet. Like, I would be the type that would be like, oh yeah, I put pasta on 5 minutes ago. Like, so I love that there's always going to be that person, and they're probably going to get with the other one of that in that scenario.
Yeah, it's just that. Yeah, it's pieces of a jigsaw, isn't it?
Yep.
So what else is going on with yourself then at the minute?
Yeah, so at the minute, I've been doing as much writing or storyboarding as I can get my hands on. So that's always kind of in the back burner, or not back burner. That's always kind of just off to the side whenever I choose to jump at it. But one of the other things that I've been doing that I'm real excited about is I've been making costumes. So doing drag, it's a lot better, cheaper if you can make your own costumes a lot of the time. And so I've applied that for Circus. So I am currently working on a stilt costume that is going to be a wisteria vine from the ground up. So yeah, I'm so excited about it. I have so many fake plants in this closet behind me. It's just like overflowing in one spot. But when it's done, it will be golden.
Yeah. That was a thing actually I saw obviously on your Instagram once. In fact, we haven't even touched on that about how I came across you actually. So the story behind me finding you, and obviously we did touch on it when we spoke, was that you doing a headstand. It was a headstand, wasn't it? Yeah, headstand. Is it a yoga pose? Or you were just sort of...
Sure.
Okay, we'll say it was.
We'll say it was.
I think obviously you're naked in it because you've got a big peach shaking in front of your derriere. And I think from the caption you're on the beach, or you're facing out towards the beach from where you are. So
I was.
How did that reel come about? And
well, I'm all.
Yeah,
go on. Go ahead.
No. Yeah, how did that reel come about?
So I recently, because I'm trying to get into doing more, I thought, okay, social media is free, so I should start putting things up there. And so I'm always putting up, if you go to my Instagram, you'll see me making costumes or me brushing out a wig or putting makeup on my face. Like, there's all sorts of things on my Instagram. But here where I live in the US, it's pretty much rainy or cloudy 10 months out of the year. And so we are in summer, the sun is out. So I get over to the nude beach as much as I can and absorb all of the sun. And so, yeah, I was just sitting there not doing anything, relaxing. I was getting ready to leave, and I thought I should do something with the ocean in the background. And so I started to get dressed, and I was like, who doesn't love a butt in the air? So I was just like, whoop, whoop, whoop. And there she went.
Nice. Because I've seen on there, like I say, obviously I had a little scroll through your Instagram. What was are you learning to do a handstand at the minute? Like, and keep it going?
I am.
Yeah. So I saw that when obviously you pushing off and stuff like that. Again, why a handstand?
It's so I love to work out. I love to exercise. Um, and so I have that. And then I was telling my husband shortly back that I was like, we live 36 hours by Google away from my home in Tennessee, where I trained for the circus. And so I was just talking to my husband. I was like, I'm thinking about taking some circus classes again here. Or, I don't know. I want to do something. And I miss my circus group. So I got on social media and was just like, I miss my circus people. I love you all. And one of my old partners in crime, if you will, texted me and was like, hey, we're doing handstands 3 days a week over Zoom. Do you want to join us? I was like, wait, so you're telling me that I can work out and be social with people from back home? Yes. So handstands was just the opportunity of choice at the time.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's because I only asked because I sort of jokingly last week or the week before, I was speaking to my sister-in-law, and my niece has taught herself how to do a backflip. She's 11, and she'll just bang out a backflip. And
casually,
yeah, she started learning on her trampoline, and now I think she's pretty much doing it from a standing start now. So I said to her, all right, because I don't see him that often. So I said, well, next time I see you, I'm going to have cracked it. I'm going to have done a backflip, and I haven't done any practice yet, to be honest. I'm trying to find not find where to go, I know where to go, but yeah, just sort of find the time to get over and do it. But yeah, I think it's always good to just challenge yourself with stuff like that. Like, yeah, but I have no idea how I'm going to achieve this because I'm like 15 stone. But I know that there's bigger lads than me that can do backflips, so if it can be done, it will be done.
Totally. And that's the great thing about the internet, especially places like YouTube. There are videos and demonstrations of people everywhere showing, how they got to that point and exercising and stretching. So yeah, I'm in your corner supporting.
Yeah,
and now that this is going to be live, she's going to know.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so I've got to step up now.
Exactly.
As well, you touched on it earlier about your stilts. How long did it take to learn that? Because I noticed as well, obviously, some of your some of your moves, your routine, is obviously carrying another human.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
how do you train? Right, how do you learn the stilts to start with? And then when you're incorporating having someone that you're swinging about, how does that go as well? I'm assuming you have to have big mats about, or is it just let's hope for the best?
No, you definitely. So yeah, when I first started in stilts, to be 100% honest, it only took me 30 minutes to get up and walking and doing some choreography. I know that is obviously not going to be the case for every person.
Not everyone's TJ universe.
Well, you heard it here. So it started out, we were doing a planning for a circus, and my group was really awesome they were like, if you it was a fundraiser for a nonprofit group. And so all the proceeds went to this fundraiser. So all of our trainings were just volunteer. So one of the things that they did to make it really great for us is they would say, is there anything that you want to learn? And so, if you want to learn it, start it now while we're training, and maybe, you'll get featured in a number doing this new thing that you've learned. And so I was like, yes, I want to learn stilts. Let's go. And so they put me essentially up against a wall, got me in stilts. There were pads everywhere. And so they showed me how to fall first, because it's important. If you're going to be up there, you don't want to fall on your head. So I learned how to fall. And then essentially I just walked along the wall. But me being who I am, I looked over, saw they were doing choreography, and was like, I can do that close to the wall. Oh, I don't need to touch the wall. Hey guys, I'm coming in. So that's kind of how it got started. And then, yeah, especially you probably saw on my Instagram, I did a stilt tango with somebody else in stilts. And so we trained for it on the ground, getting all the lifts, having people there to spot us and catch somebody if they fell. And then essentially we both got in stilts and had our mats, had our spotters, and hope for the best and plan for the worst.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing the the reels and the life that you lead and stuff. It's awesome, and it's you're forever bringing joy to people and putting smiles on people's faces. And obviously, you're a very happy person as well, and you've been a joy on this podcast. It's been amazing speaking to you. Do you want to let everyone know your tags on Instagram and whatnot?
Absolutely. Instagram is my favorite social media of choice. So I am TJ_universe_1. Number one.
Right. And that brings the podcast to an end. Thank you very much for coming on today, TJ.
Thank you so much for having me.
Mate, honestly, it has been my pleasure. It's been absolutely amazing to chat to you. And like I say, obviously, I wouldn't get to do this without people like you. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. I'll have more stories for you later.
Perfect. Right. See you later, everybody. Stay safe.